Someday, in the not-so-distant future, it happens. The moment you realize you're ready for anything. Get a degree in emergency management from Jacksonville State University and be ready for where you're going.
This is your Weather Extreme video for Saturday, May the 24th. I'm meteorologist Brian Peters. We have some clouds across the sky of central Alabama, and that makes for some interesting skycam shots this morning. There's a look at Mount Cheaha from the highest point in central Alabama, or actually in Alabama, 2,407 feet, and a beautiful sunrise there. And certainly some clouds that we see from Jasper Skycam, making for somewhat of a pinkish, almost pinkish purple sunrise for those people in the western part of Alabama. At the surface, our weather pattern is primarily a surface ridge, a high-pressure area centered over the southern Great Lakes, but we do have a weak boundary across the area that could be the focus for some showers, but I think for the most part we stay dry. In the upper air pattern, we're dealing primarily with a ridge that is been there for much of the previous week and is going to stay there for much of the week ahead as the pattern becomes pretty summer-like. Temperatures across the area at just before 6, generally around the 60s for much of central Alabama, although a few spots in northeast getting into the 50s. But the overall temperatures across the country are actually pretty nice. Some 40s there in the Rockies, but and some 40s across the Great Lakes area. Radar clear across the southeastern U.S., but there are some showers up in Missouri and parts of Kansas and Oklahoma. QPF-wise, the focus for much of precipitation over the next 5 days is going to remain off to our west, and you'll see that we're going to be watching the forward progression of a fairly strong trough that is going to have trouble coming into the ridge. Storm Prediction Center is outlooking a slight risk for severe across parts of West Texas and eastern New Mexico for today. For day 2, it's primarily from the Texas Panhandle down into the Big Bend country. And then on day 3, we see that it's still in Texas, but we also have on day 2 and on day 3, we have a C-text for the possibility of some isolated strong thunderstorms over the southeastern U.S., and while we think that much of that will be very, very limited, any showers that or thunderstorms that do develop could be strong with some gusty winds as a possibility. And the tropical weather season began in the eastern Pacific on May 15th, and we now have Amanda. But as you can see from the forecast track, Amanda expected to stay out to sea. It's a hurricane and will stay a hurricane through Monday and then weaken after that to a tropical storm. And if you're headed for the Gulf Coast, the water temperatures along the Florida and Alabama and Mississippi Gulf Coast are generally running around 78, 79, 80, 81 degrees. So it's not too bad, just not too warm. The 06Z GFS model run, and here's the surface high, and you can see a little bit of a weak boundary in the area. I think for the most part today, moisture remains somewhat limited, so therefore I think, while you can't rule out a shower completely, I think we stay dry today. The upper high is firmly in place, and it has been dominating the weather pattern for the last week, and it's going to continue to be the primary feature that we'll be watching for the next week. But we're also watching that closed low over the Four Corners area that is beginning to inch eastward. It's losing some of its support from further north, so it's becoming more or less cut off from the overall flow, so it's going to have a hard time pushing into the ridge. And the result is that, especially over the southeastern U.S., we're going to see the possibility of isolated showers for the next several days. The upper air pattern changes very little on Monday as the ridge holds and that closed low begins to weaken. Again, it's lost its connection with the primarily westerlies, so it's kind of going to flounder a bit. On Tuesday, you can see that it's still evident there. over the or close to the Oklahoma-Texas panhandles. But it certainly has become disconnected from the overall westerly flow pattern, and we can see that upper low responsible for showers over north central Texas and Oklahoma. And once again, we're just in an area where we'll see some isolated to scattered showers. The overall pattern doesn't change that much, but the ridge begins to build stronger back over the Dakotas as this closed low and this upper low begins to weaken. It's still visible there over northeast Texas. And, of course, under that, we'll see widespread showers, and we may see a little bit more in the way of showers as we get from midweek into the latter part of the week. By Thursday, the ridge is building stronger in response to the low coming in on the west coast. And by Friday, we see that ridge is pretty much taking over once again, so kind of almost a repeat. And at the surface, all we can say is the possibility of isolated to scattered showers across much of the eastern half of the country, as it looks like very much a summer-like weather pattern on the last Friday of May. By Saturday, a week from today, we see the ridge is still in place. So we're back to the battle between the ridge over the Mississippi River and the trough along the California coast. And once again, that means that we'll just see scattered showers possible across much of the area. Looking out into Voodoo Country, week 2, we see that the ridge is still evident, but it is being beaten down by the troughs that are moving through the flow across the Great Lakes and across the U.S.-Canadian border. So the ridge basically weakens quite a bit. It's still the primary factor in our weather pattern across the southeastern U.S., but certainly that wouldn't be much in the way of a change from our weather pattern. And when we get out to the end of the period, around 372 hours, this is the 8th of June, there's the ridge. It's still there. Beaten down just a little bit, not quite as strong as it is now, but it's still there, which means not much change for 2 weeks in the weather pattern over the southeastern U.S. Well, that'll do it for the Weather Xtreme video for this Saturday. Expect to have the next one posted first thing on Sunday morning. In the meantime, you can always check back on the blog for the latest updates on what's happening. I'm meteorologist Brian Peters. Have a great day and Godspeed.
Thank you for trusting us to be your #1 source for news
in all of central Alabama.
in back-to-back ratings periods.
More people watched ABC 3340
than any other station in Birmingham.